COCOON is the third game by director Jeppe Carlsen of Limbo and Inside designer fame. The game also won the award for Best Debut Indie Title at the Game Awards last year, which sounds a bit silly if you think about it, though Carlsen made the game through a new studio as a first-time director, so it's whatever. Whether Pizza Tower deserved the award more is something we will get to in a later video this year, don't worry. COCOON is, much like its older siblings or a game like Scorn for example, a voiceless puzzle adventure/exploration game. By this I mean that the only form of communication towards the player is purely through the gameplay, visuals, music and sound effects. There are no tutorial pop-ups or characters that tell you what to do, just a simple prompt at the start showing you the only button you will ever need to interact with stuff in this world. The world itself is very interesting, on both a visual and gameplay standpoint. COCOON is, in perhaps the simplest meaning of the word, a 4-dimensional puzzle game, where your actions and options are not limited to a single world, but can become intertwined with others, taking these world marbles around to power up different contraptions like platforms and bridges, entering them to explore and unlock new possibilities, and putting them inside of each other for some truly mind-breaking multi-dimensional puzzles really is the name of the game here. And this engaging and interesting unique gameplay gets complemented very well by the intriguing visuals and soothing sounds and music, with some nice chimes after figuring out a puzzle to confirm you actually figured it out through that audio feedback alone, for example. The visual style in general is very reminiscent of what is used in Inside, utilizing its style and applying it to truly alien landscapes. There are usually always some stunning vistas to behold when standing on a cliff or something, or intriguing structures looming in the distance, cool alien life warbling around. Combined with those soothing sounds and relaxing music I mentioned, it's a surprisingly nice experience just on visuals and audio alone. The camera also gets used interestingly, especially when moving around on those big platforms, framing your character as something truly small and insect-like on top of their already insect-like appearance. As I mentioned, the sound design complements the gameplay very well, and the visuals definitely help frame the entire experience very nicely, especially as you move through and explore different worlds. There are also no cuts, which I believe was a feature in Limbo and Inside as well, where the entire playthrough of the game, the camera essentially follows your character in a single, uninterrupted shot, which kind of provides a feeling of security in essence. In any case, it's very cool to see. I generally enjoy games like COCOON, where you are allowed to figure stuff out for yourself at your own pace, without a tutorial message popping up telling you what to do, or an NPC companion telling you the same thing. But the lack of those does run the risk of becoming unsatisfying if the player fails to grasp certain things for themselves in a relatively decent amount of time. This being a purely personal thing, of course, I can't say too much on the topic, but for me, this game definitely clicked. I almost never got stuck on a certain part, aside from maybe trying out 2 or 3 wrong answers in some puzzles, and one of the later puzzles taking me a little bit longer than normal. All things considered, the game is also quite linear. It is a 3D world this time around instead of the 2D of both Limbo and Inside, but you're still constantly moving forward with the areas you've been through getting cut off from you, which is something typical for a 2D game. I would also consider it maybe even a 4D world, as a major part of the puzzling and exploration is moving around and through different worlds contained in these world marbles like I've already mentioned. After awakening as your character at the start of the game, who I'll name Little Atlas for obvious reasons, one of the first big wow moments is flying out of this initial world marble through one of these ascending platforms, and realizing you are just walking around in this world that's just a part of something so much bigger. Gameplay-wise, you start out just interacting with switches and pulling on stuff and the like, but once you ascend out of this first world marble, you start using that world itself as part of the puzzles in the future as well. Put the world marble through tubes to time certain switches. use the marble to power certain things, stuff like that. The world marbles quickly become the cornerstone of all intricate puzzles, and once you defeat the guardian of this red world marble, the marble itself also gains a power to let you walk on otherwise hidden paths. There are 4 of these world marbles in total, each with their own environmental themes, puzzles to solve in, guardian to defeat in, and power to obtain from. What is the point of doing all of this, you may ask? Why is Little Atlas going through all of this? This, just like in Limbo, Inside, and other games like, again, Scorn, is up entirely to personal interpretation. I am fairly certain there is no intention for there to be a singular, correct, true answer to that question. This is just an alien setting where we play as an alien character with alien goals using alien technology to achieve those goals. This creates its own sense of wonder, of course, and while you're not actively solving puzzles, you do have the time to think about an answer for yourself, all the while admiring the visuals of your alien surroundings, which often generate questions for themselves. I will get a bit deeper into this in a small spoiler segment towards the end of the video, since I don't want to share the entire game with you if you're willing to play it for yourself, since discovery and wonder in games like this is usually one of the largest enjoyments you get out of them. I will say that, in general, the game certainly impressed me. I was never a big fan of Inside, as to me that game relied too much on trial and error with its puzzles, with a simple mistake ending in your death and requiring a respawn, and I don't remember ever bothering to finish it myself. COCOON had no such issue for me. Puzzles here rely mostly on logic. What order do I do things in? Where do I place the marbles? Where do I use their ability? For the most part, it came down to similar questions like that. There are also some puzzles requiring timing, but not that many, with the Guardian boss fights relying the most on good timing. Timing being a crucial gameplay aspect in most games, of course, but I can see some people getting annoyed at a timed segment in a relatively chill and laid-back puzzle game like this one. Personally, I did enjoy these boss fights as they are a kind of puzzle in and of themselves, of course. Getting hit and dying here always sends you back up, so there's no break in continuity, just like you would an Ascendance platform, and I don't think any of the boss fights were that hard to figure out or anything, allowing you to familiarize yourself with their unique mechanic before the fight actually starts. There's also little secondary exploration to do, with some optional areas being around, always marked with distinct black goo pillars. These always lead to what the achievements call a moon ancestor, who seem to be related to your overall quest, as they too carry on their back some sort of world marble. Some of these moon ancestors require a little bit of puzzling, like pulling in a contraption from the main path to activate a switch, for example, but as long as you keep your eyes out for those distinct black goo pillars, you won't miss any, as I didn't miss any myself. In essence, there's just no real getting lost moments in COCOON, even though you may have to hop worlds a few times to actually know which way you have to go first, but in that regard you also have a drone with you sometimes, who is always pointing in the direction it needs to go, which is almost always the direction you need to go as well. I'll be spoiling the later parts of the game now, as there are some interesting things I do want to mention when it comes to both the story as well as the gameplay itself, so if this looks interesting to you, definitely check it out, and you can skip to this timestamp to go to the conclusion of the video. I honestly did kind of expect a water world after the desert world, as it's kind of a cliche to have both a water and desert world, of course, but the living flesh world after that, did not expect that. The visuals of this place are amazing, with all of this biomechanical stuff being so intricately designed. This also begged the question, is the technology used in these worlds based off of these flesh designs, or are these flesh designs being mimicked off of the technology that's brought here? It's probably the second one, but it's still cool to think about. There are what looks like giant DNA strand structures here, with mechanical parts interlinked, which makes this all very mysterious. Before getting to this flesh world, I assumed the world marbles were being used to maybe exploit the resources of the world marbles for the main world, But this flesh world threw kind of a wrench in that, so in the end I have no real clue as to what is actually going on here. With the ending at least confirming that there is some hyper-advanced civilization at work here, and it all being part of some grand design. On the gameplay front then, the moment I saw an Ascendance platform in what you assume is the real world, I was taken aback. And it is of course a big moment since you actually slowly reveal this Ascendance platform for yourself. Going from this more industrial place to some void, corrupted, hostile place was absolutely amazing and was probably the second most interesting moment of the game, aside from the first time leaving the Red World marble. The way the different marbles start interacting with each other towards the end of the game, like layering them into each other so the projectiles get shot through 3 different marbles in sequence in themselves, is absolutely amazing. And the final few marble puzzles were very interesting to figure out. The different trials you go through, where you only use some marbles and not all of them, also showcase that each of these marble powers are interesting pieces to the puzzle in their own right. But when you're dancing in and out of multiple worlds and start carrying the marbles into their own worlds through those dimension doors, the game truly reaches its apex. I was actually kinda sad when the game was over, since I feel they could have taken this concept even further and upped the difficulty on the puzzles themselves, though that then runs into that problem of some people just not being able to figure stuff out for themselves. And the moment someone alt-tabs out of the game to open up a guide is the moment a game like this absolutely crumbles and fails for me. And that's really it for COCOON, I suppose. It is a very interesting and intriguing little game. Definitely the one I enjoyed most between COCOON, Limbo and Inside. Just on a technical level, this feels like a very cool achievement. Depending on how fast the game and puzzle mechanics click with you, it can be quite a short experience, however. Without getting hung up on certain parts myself, I managed to beat the entire thing in less than 5 hours. Which is perfect if you want to play a game like this for your Sunday afternoon or something, but if you enjoy or crave or are looking for more intricate, longer puzzle games with more of a challenge to them, this one might feel too compact and too casual for you. At its current price of 20-something buccarinos, I would recommend it if you do enjoy puzzle games and games like Inside or Limbo, though otherwise a sale might be better since there is essentially no replay value here whatsoever either. Since once you get all of the moon ancestors for the achievements and just beat the game, there's really nothing left here for you. There is a secret ending, but it's one of those you will never be able to figure this out for yourself without looking up a guide online type of endings like Dark Souls secrets or whatever, which then just has a little added cinematic post-credit scene at the end, which you could just as easily look up on YouTube yourself. So it's more of a neat secret, what does it mean type deal, instead of something really worth another playthrough in my opinion. But whatever floats your boat, of course. I probably won't play the game ever again, unless stuff gets added later down the line or I get nostalgic in a few years and want to experience the game again for myself, though that, like with so many other games, will never be the exact same experience as you have the first time playing it, of course. Thanks for watching. I know this is a shorter video than usual, but it's also a shorter game than usual, so a Pizza Tower video is coming. Maybe not the next video, but definitely this year. Which I'm very excited to get into, as I've seen and heard a lot about the game. So I'm excited to see for myself, and I hope not to end up like Wings of Redemption playing Pizza Tower, for example. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll definitely hope to see you in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.